In our daily readings, we've been reading in the book of Judges, and I find it to be such a fascinating book, so interesting, because there are so many areas where we can identify personally, to see plans that we make that fail. We failed up and down, and that was certainly the case with Israel. And there are lessons for us to learn in that. And our reading has been in the last several days in Judges. And for today, the reading in our reading plan is Judges chapters 13 through 16, 2 Corinthians chapter 2. And of course, in Judges 13 through 16, we find the account of Samson and his life of worshiping and serving and blessing the Lord, and failure and defeat and compromise and all of those things that we see in his life. And there's no different for our reading today, chapter 16, verses 23 and 24. And this is reading about the Philistines and what was going on with them, but they do serve a purpose to show us a valuable lesson. Now, the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to rejoice. And they said, "Our God has delivered into our hands Samson, our enemy." When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has delivered into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, and the one who multiplied our dead." Well, certainly Samson had multiplied their dead. And it's ever the way of man to think that what has been done is permanent. Well, that'll fix that, we say. That'll take care of that. He forgets, and I like that. A friend of mine has been sharing, or shared on his blog, a little yogiism, and that comes from Yogi Berra, who was the catcher for the New York Yankees baseball team in the 60s, late 50s and early 60s. And he would oftentimes say stuff when interviewed that, and so they started collecting all of the little things that he said, and they became yogiisms. And one of the things that he said, it ain't over till it's over. And that's what we have to, there's a truth in that I think is important to us, because sometimes we look at what has taken place and we think, well, that's the end of that. We think it's over. The plan maybe has failed, or the purpose that you had in mind didn't come to pass, and we think things are over. But here's the thing, gang. God is at work, whether we see it or not. And I know if you know this, it's not something that's new, but he is still accomplishing his purposes, whether we are able to recognize that or not. He is at work. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us who know the Lord that we trust that. Once again, here is this issue of trust for us, isn't it? And looking at this passage, the Philistines thought that they had gained a victory over Samson, but their rejoicing was really short-lived. We know that he began to grind there, to push the wheel around, to grind the grain. And as he was doing that, lo and behold, his hair began to grow, because he was a Nazirite, and the strength was in the fact that he had trusted God and had not cut his hair all of his life. So here's this guy with this head of hair, and they had shaved him off. Delilah had deceived him, all that stuff. We know about that. And they thought, well, that's permanent. We've got the victory over this guy. But God had a different plan in mind, didn't he? So it is with us. What do we have to do? Well, we have to wait. There is that word. Wait for the Lord, for him to accomplish in his time his plans and his purposes. It's ever so hard to be patient, for we're a people who want what we want when we want it. And we will not settle for anything less than that. And so learn to wait. What does Isaiah say? They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. So what do we need to learn? Well, we need to learn to wait, trusting God all the while, believing in his word. When we look around us, it just seems like everything is just flying apart. Chaos seems to be reigning. Well, what do? We wait, because God has a plan, and we trust him in the midst of that. Amen. I don't know about you, but I need to learn that lesson today. Waiting upon the Lord, trusting him all the while. May God give you the grace today to wait for him in his time and his plan and in his purposes to accomplish in you and through you what he has in mind. Amen. May the Lord richly bless you today.